In China, the death toll after a powerful earthquake in the Taiwan region rose to 9. Health authorities report over 820 injured. In Panama, the Single National Union of Workers in the Construction and Similar Industries launched a new 24-hour warning strike. And the Iranian representation to the United Nations Organization Security Council denounced that the United States is responsible for all the crimes committed by Israel in the Middle East. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In China, authorities reported a death toll of over 10 and over 820 injured after a strong earthquake shook the region of Taiwan. According to different estimates, the magnitude was between 7.2 and 7.5, and it was the strongest earthquake that has hit the island in the last 25 years. The China Seismic Networks Center reported that the earthquake mainly affected the location from the Hualien at the 7:58 a.m. local time on Wednesday. Images spread on social media showed that the earthquake flowed down several buildings, and local media claimed that up to 77 people were trapped under the buildings. The earthquake also caused an alert tsunami for southern Japan and the Philippines, which was later raised. The Central Meteorological Administration of Taiwan reported that more than 50 aftershocks with magnitudes between 3.3 and 6.5 were recorded after the main earthquake. In this context, local media reported that more than 87,000 homes were left without electrical supply due to the impact of the quake. In turn, the earthquake caused the collapse of several sections of the road and the blockade of the Suhua Highway, as well as the cancellation of trains to Hualien. Local seismologists warn of possible new earthquake of magnitudes between 6.5 and 7 in the next 3 or 4 days. Heavy rains in Ecuador caused landslides in the north of Quito, resulting in 1 person dead and 3 injured. Statements to the press made by the mayor of Quito, Pavel Muñoz, indicated that the person who died was riding a motorcycle at the time of the disaster, and that 2 of the 3 injured were members of the municipal security corps. Muñoz also took stock of the situation in the neighborhoods of La Gasca and the commune of Santa Clara de San Millán, the most affected by a mudslide that rushed through several streets in the area. For its part, the Metropolitan Transit Agency announced the closure of main roads in the sector due to the amount of water and mud recorded during the rain.
Due to the weather conditions, you can see that there are effects in which we summoned all the emergency units of the Metropolitan District of Quito. The Ecuadorian National Police is at the moment with 125 police officers among the Special Operations Group dedicated to the rescue and above all the assistance of people who require it. Unfortunately, we have to report the death of 1 person and a second one is yet to be confirmed. The current flood was 60% less than the previous one 2 years ago, but it is still a flood that should have been foreseen by the municipal authorities. I personally believe that the municipal authorities have reached their level of incompetence. I think I must be harsh because we already have a flood in less than 2 years and the authorities would have done their job, which is what we as citizens have entrusted them with. We gave them a mandate. Work for the city.
Educators in Costa Rica will take to the streets on Wednesday to claim back payments for different concepts, among them the retroactive cost of living for the period 2020 to 2023. Settlements was scheduled for April 1st, however, the Ministry of Finance assured through a statement that the deposit had been made to 39,000 civil servants who were pending. The demonstrations will arrive at the offices of the Ministry of Public Education and will then continue their route to the Ministry of Finance, explained the union associations. The president of Teachers of Secondary Education, Vivian Chavez, also explained that they are joining other union organizations in the march due to the non-payment of the cost of living increase. In Panama, the Single National Union of Workers in the Construction and Similar Industries began a new 24-hour warning strike this Wednesday. This new National Day of Action will be carried out in protest against the closing of bank accounts of the organization in the State Savings Bank and the persecution of its main leaders. Also, members of the union indicated that they will remain in the streets until the government stops the arbitrary financial measures which threaten the normal functioning of this organization. In this context, the construction workers closed several main roads in the capital city and the province of West Panama. In other news, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Venezuela, Ivan Gil, expressed in the social network X, rejecting inherentism and unilateral coercive measures that attempt against international law on equality among nations in the framework of the 55th session of the Human Rights Council. In the tweet, he expresses that there is no longer any way to cover up the crimes against humanity perpetrated by the United States and its allies. He adds that today at the United Nations Human Rights Council, 32 countries voted against the imposition of unilateral coercive measures and recognized the negative impact on populations and their contradiction with the international law on sovereignty among nations. Hill stated that the international community rejects the interventionism and criminal policy of the United States, and it is time to promote multipolarity and respect for the right to self-determination of peoples. Several Cuban organizations joined the show of solidarity with the president of Nicolás Maduro in rejection of the assassination attempts and in support of the electoral process in Venezuela. Part of the communique states the following: the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela counts among its enormous achievements to be the country that has held the most democratic elections in all of Latin America and the Caribbean, whose transparency has not been contested. The document highlights: we call to denounce the assassination attempts against the president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, on March 25th by assassins who respond to the fascist organization Venta Venezuela, which never requested to be registered as a party. Finally, the text emphasizes: send our solidarity to President Nicolás Maduro Moros, our repudiation to the attempts of assassination and alteration of the international order, and our firm support for the electoral process in Bolivarian Venezuela. In Argentina, the State Workers Association, ATE, denounced a police operation to prevent the entry of salaried workers to agencies and ministries as part of a protest against the dismissal of at least 11,000 people. In this respect, the General Secretary of ATE, Rodolfo Aguiar, stated that the national government does not have the budget to cover the basic needs of the Argentine people, but it does have the budget to repress the people. In this sense, thousands of people arrived at the workplaces to make massive and simultaneous entries against the layoffs in the public administration carried out by the government of Javier Milei. Among the institutions where police operations were deployed were the cabinet headquarters, the labor and human rights secretariats. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel attended Wednesday the opening of the second trade fair for transportation and logistics. The event hosts national and foreign professionals of the sector who will be able to identify business opportunities in Cuba and consolidate existing ones. Among the Cuban ministry's main objectives are to encourage the development of economic stakeholders, promote foreign direct investments, foster international cooperation, attract financing for infrastructure, as well as to expand the material supply networks and modernize the national industry. The event will last until next Friday, April 5th. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In Canada, Foreign Minister called for a full investigation into the Israeli occupation army strike against the Gaza Strip that killed 7 humanitarian workers, including a Canadian citizen. This attack represents the latest Israeli military action to hit humanitarian efforts in the besieged Palestinian territory. At the NATO summit in Brussels, the Foreign Affairs Minister of Canada, Melanie Joly, told reporters that Israel needs to respect international humanitarian law, and the Canadian government will make sure of that. After the said strike, the charity World Central Kitchen was immediately pausing operations in the region, delivering a blow to the recently opened sea route for food aid.
So, unfortunately, a Canadian was killed in the IDF strike that targeted humanitarian workers from World Kitchen. My deepest condolences to their loved ones and family members. We call for a full investigation. We want to make sure that Israel looks directly into this issue. I've reached out last night to Israel Katz, my Israeli counterpart, on this very issue. Israel needs to respect international humanitarian law, and we will make sure that that is the case. Thank you.
The Iranian representation to the United Nations Organization Security Council denounced that the United States is responsible for all the crimes committed by Israel in the Middle East. Within the framework of an emergency meeting held at the Security Council on the Israeli attack on the Iranian embassy in Syria, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Iran to the United Nations, Sarah Esradi, pointed out that Israel's crime clearly violated the founding charter of the United Nations international law on the inviolability of diplomatic rights and consular premises. He also reiterated that the attacks carried out by Israel are absolutely unacceptable and must stop. The Iranian representative to the United Nations denounced that such actions, including its genocidal operation in Gaza, will increasingly escalate the current regional conflict and constitute a constant threat to peace in the Middle East. In Israel, anti-government protests gathered in front of the parliament in Jerusalem to demand the removal from office of Benjamin Netanyahu and agreement for the release of hostages in Gaza. Carrying torches and posters, thousands of demonstrators marched from the Knesset to Prime Minister's residence on Tuesday, calling for new elections in the country. Local media reported that there were clashes between police officers and demonstrators, some of whom were arrested. The protest is mainly made up of relatives and friends of people who are currently detained in the Gaza Strip.
The hostages are the first target, and that will be victory. We tell the government that all this useless, unproductive talk and tone about a total victory are nonsense. There will be no total victory. The only victory we can have is the victory of the spirit, that we remain a human and democratic country. We don't want revenge, we don't want to kill Palestinians, we don't want hunger in Gaza, we want a ceasefire that will bring the hostages. We want the re-establishment of the State of Israel.
In Russia, the government called on the security services to strengthen their preparedness and take measures against terrorist activities of the Kyiv regime. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov assured that in the face of terrorist attacks by the Ukrainian army, appropriate measures will be taken in terms of increased mobilization and preparedness to ensure greater security following a drone attack on the Republic of Tatarstan. Local authorities reported that industrial enterprises in the area of Bulga were attacked by Ukrainian drones in the last hours, causing at least 14 injured persons. Both attacked cities are located more than 1,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for an English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short. Welcome back to From the South. Uganda's constitutional court on Wednesday refused to annul or suspend an anti-homosexuality law that includes the death penalty for certain same-sex acts, but voided some provisions it said are inconsistent with certain fundamental human rights. The legislation adopted in May last year is among the world's harshest anti-LGBTQ laws and has drawn condemnation from rights campaigners and sanctions from Western nations. Activists say the law has unleashed a torrent of abuse against LGBTQ people, including torture, rape, arrests, and evictions. In his reading and on behalf of the jury, Judge Richard Butera declined to strike down the Anti-Homosexuality Law 2023 in its entirety, stating that a permanent injunction against its enforcement would not be granted. However, the court struck down certain sections that were considered inconsistent with right to health, privacy, and freedom of religion.
The petitioners sought a myriad of remedies that essentially call for the nullification of the entire Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023. Having held as we have in the body of the judgment, we decline to nullify the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023 in its entirety. Neither would we grant a permanent injunction against its enforcement.
Ugandan lawyer Nicholas Opillo emphasized that the court was based on the moral values of the society, but at the same time, by its decision, supported the discriminalization of LGBTQ people in the country.
The court substantially upheld the vast majority of the sections of the Anti-Homosexuality Act in Uganda. The court said the act does not provide for discrimination, doesn't offend the freedom of expression, doesn't offend the freedom of privacy, and does not restrict the right of religion to practice one's faith. The court essentially said that the law is justified insofar as it discriminates against LGBTI people, as far as it denies them a right to participate in the governance of this country. They said those restrictions are proportional. And in doing so, the court relied on public sentiments. The court relied on what it calls moral values of this society. And the court, by its decision, simply endorsed the discrimination of LGBTI individuals in this country.
In Senegal, the newly elected president of the Republic, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, appointed Ousmane Sonko as the country's prime minister. Sonko thanked the Senegalese people for their support to his political formation project and announced that his government proposal will be presented in the next few days. Sonko's figure had been excluded from the presidential elections, which was considered an attempt by the then government led by Macky Sall to silence opposition voices. Senegal's new government seeks to bring about a systematic change in order for the country to regain its sovereignty, as well as to return to the page on several months of instability and uncertainty after Sall postponed the presidential elections.
It's a heavy responsibility, since it will involve coordinating this action and leading the teams that will have to work hard to achieve the objectives we have set ourselves as part of this national policy, which is now based on our program, a program that we have drawn up together, that we have presented together to the Senegalese people, and that we have defended together. The program is entitled, For a Sovereign, Just and Prosperous Senegal.
The International Organization for Migration, IOM, denounced new acts of vandalism and violence by paramilitary groups in Sudan. The international body reported that at least 21 people were killed during the actions that took place over the weekend, leaving dozens of people wounded. It detailed that clashes that took place in the city of El Fasher and in the north of Darfur provoked the displacement of its inhabitants. The organization also reported that the Sudanese army forces prevented a bombardment against their positions in the area of Al-Awash belonging to the city of Al-Dawin in the state of White Nile. And we will move now to the world of sports. The Chilean shooter Diego Parra becomes the 19th classified from his country to the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. At only 16 years old, the athlete achieved an extraordinary Olympic qualification to Paris 2024 after being crowned champion in the 10-meter air pistol in the Pan American shooting qualifier in Buenos Aires. Parra achieved 244.2 points to eliminate his rivals, all medalists in the Pan American Games of Santiago 2023, also beating the Brazilian Olympic medalist Felipe Almeida Wu silver in Rio 2016. In this way, the young Chilean achieved the only available space heading to Paris 2024, being the 19th classified of his country and the youngest until now. And the Mexican women's team won a gold prize in the American Sports Shooting Championship in Argentina. The national sports shooting selected teams Alejandra Zavala Vázquez, Andrea Ibarra Miranda, and Alejandra Cervantes Rodriguez achieved the gold medal in the women's team 10 meters air pistol test during the start of the 14th American Rifle and Pistol Championship that takes place in Buenos Aires. The tricolor group led the competition with a score of 16.97 to 36x above the Ecuador team, made up of Diana Durango, Andrea Perez, and Sofia Padilla, who added 16.97 to 36x, while the Canadians obtained the mark of 16.67 to 22x and took the bronze. It should be noted that it will be this Wednesday, April 3rd, when the national selected teams return to the shooting range to competition in the mixed team modality. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.